Good morning. Like and subscribe if you feel that the information in the video is worthwhile and you're learning something from it. Share the video also and hit the black bell for the algorithm. Now let's get straight to it. This is my third take on this video, and the reality of the situation when I'm watching videos and things like this, I hate when people don't get straight to the point. So I'm going to get straight to the point. But the first thing I'm going to do is preface this by saying that this idea of identifying as this or that started back in 325 AD with the Council of Nicaea or Nicaea, and it's spelled Nicaea. It was started in 325 AD. And what I mean by this identifying is identifying with what you are not. To identify with something that you are not is a lie. This idea of men can be women, women can be men, I am a pronoun, and all this crap of identifying. This started back in 325 AD when Khazars started identifying as Jews. It was a lie then, it is a lie now. I could go into a history of the Council of Nicaea, but I'm not. I'm going to get straight to the point. So what was the purpose of the Council of Nicaea? The purpose of the Council of Nicaea was to bring paganism and monotheism together so that they could control the people and they could stop the infighting and the disagreement. You can't bring people together to control them if they disagree. So they had to come up with a way to bring pagans and pagans, a belief in many gods, with monotheism that believes in the belief in one God. So let's go to Genesis 26 and check this out. Okay, all through Genesis, we talk about how many gods? We talk about one God all the way to Genesis 25. Then all of a sudden in Genesis 26, we flip the script to paganism. I'm going to read it. And God said, singular, let us make man in our image. In our image. That is paganism. Many gods. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, paganism, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and other creeping things that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he him, male and female. Boom. That is paganism, a belief in more than one God. See, they start off with one God. See, that was the beginning. It's Hebrew Israelite history. Speaking of the creation. But when it gets to Genesis 26, now you have to satisfy the pagans, and you got to bring them under Christianity. So you flip the script. But the cool thing about it is that back in those days, people couldn't read. So they had to depend on what you tell them, similar to what TV does to people nowadays. They don't expect you to read, they just tell you what to think. But check this out. I lead you to the spiritual waters. I don't insist that you drink or that you believe me. And I'm not supposed to. I just lead you to the spiritual waters. And when things aren't making sense, then you know where to look to find the truth. I want you to think for yourself. Now let's continue on. Now, we are not created in God's image because God is not a human being. God is not a human being. But check this out. First, Jesus was supposed to be the Son of God. Now you got people like Geno Jennings saying that Jesus is God. So they are making a white man into God. They are making a white man into God. That's BS. Then you have Genesis 2 contradicting Genesis 1. Because in Genesis 2, it says that God did not make plants before it could rain. Contradictions. Understand this. Do not try to make sense out of contradictions, because either one is right or one is wrong. A contradiction is not a metaphor. A metaphor can have many hidden meanings, but a contradiction, either you telling the truth or you telling a lie. I don't care what nobody says. Genesis 3 makes God Satan and Satan God, because it states that God lied to Adam and Eve about the tree of knowledge, telling them that if they ate of the tree of knowledge, they would die. Then the serpent, who's supposed to be Satan, comes back and tells Eve, eat the apple, let Adam eat it, and you will not die. So the serpent, Satan, is telling the truth, and God is a liar. This is an alteration by the Council of Nicaea, or Nicaea. And if people can't read, then they can flip the script and explain it any kind of way they want to. But now we can read and we can understand when a lie is not a lie. And guess what we got going for it? Now they tried to lie with us. They tried to lie to us on TV, but now we have the internet. So every time they come out with a BS game, God comes out and gives us a way to where the light can shine. So let me read Genesis 3. Begin. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, ye have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which in the midst of the garden God hath said, ye shall not touch, ye shall not eat it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. So now they're saying that God told Eve, if you eat or touch this tree, you will die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Now the serpent all of a sudden is telling the truth and calling God a liar. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Now let me explain to you something. This has been twisted, but let me tell you how it's supposed to go. Eve represents spiritual consciousness. Eve represents spiritual consciousness. Man represents the intellect. The intellect. So when Eve gave Adam the apple, she awokened his spiritual consciousness, his sense of love, compassion, raising children, and things of this necessity, things like that. Spirit is always considered as spiritual. But see, the way they have twisted this, They have made God into a liar and Satan into a truth teller. They have juxtaposed their positions by making God a liar and Satan a truth teller. Now understand this. When people try to make sense of lies, they become brainwashed. Do not try to make sense of a lie. A lie is not a metaphor. A lie is not a metaphor. It is a lie. It is not a metaphor. A metaphor is what I gave you when I talk about Eve being spiritual and giving the apple to Adam and opening his eyes up to spirituality. But you see, Aryan men, Caucasians, they always put women down. They have this thing about being perfect, right, and godlike. And it is ridiculous. Now I'm going to throw one last thing at you before we end. I'm going to throw two things at you. Now, Genesis 5 verse 2 states, God called Adam and Eve both Adam. God called Adam and Eve both Adam. God doesn't make mistakes, so don't say that God wrote the Bible, okay? Now, this is what I want you to get a hold to. Now, Genesis 2 verse 2 is about white men raping black women. White men raping black women, because white men called themselves, if we go back, white men said was talking about we made man in our image. They were talking about white men, and now they're talking about the gods finding women desirable, defining black women desirable and taking them. Genesis 6, let me read this. Genesis 6 verse 1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. When men and women began to multiply, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, different from the people that were there, these are the sons of God, saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them. They took them as wives of all which they chose. So they just took any woman they want. They took her. She didn't have a choice in the matter. They subjugated women. Now, chapter 6, verse 3. And the Lord said, my spirit, it shall now always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Okay, so what happened? This is whitewashing. This is whitewashing of the melanated people. This began the whitewash. That's why Egypt was Kemet. Now it is Egypt. Whitewashing. Now check this out. Let's go to chapter 6, verse 4. Now there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown. That was a lie. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of thought and earth. I'm going to stop right there. Now look, all of a sudden, chapter 6, verse 5, after the gods started mating with the women, they became what? They became evil all of a sudden. When the gods started mating with the women, they became evil. There was when Hebrew Israelites were mixing with Hebrew Israelites, everything was all right. But when the gods, white men, start mixing, all of a sudden, evil became. Evil became. And you know what they did? They started taking the inventions of black people and using them for evil purposes. But see, I'm going to end here because I don't want to give you too much information. I want to keep to the facts. And the fact is this. The fact is this. When people try to make sense of lies, they become brainwashed. Understand the difference between a lie and a metaphor. A thing either is or it is not. God is either evil or good. And if God is good, God is not going to tell a lie to Adam and Eve. And the whole idea that they would have to hide themselves from God is ridiculous because you can't hide anything from God. See, they're talking about Zeus and people like that. And see, the story of Hercules is what they're about when gods come down and have sex with women and they become immortal mortals. But see, Hebrew Israelites, our religion is a philosophy. Our religion is philosophy, a search for truth. And see, we are about spiritual maturity. Hebrew Israelites are about spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity. We are not, heaven and hell are metaphors. We are about spiritual maturity over many lives of reincarnation. Revelation 2, verse 11 talks about worry about the second death, not the first death. The first death is the physical body. The second death is the soul. Worry about losing your soul. Like and subscribe. Talk to you later.